first interview that I'll be doing where I wasn't under the umbrella of Russo's brand. So I'm branching out on my own, and I want to thank you all if you're listening to this, if you hear this or are a part of it. It's a little scary, but I'll give you a backstory. When I got my first record deal, it was due to a manager that I had. And the manager that I had was Dick Scott of New Kids on the Block. And New Kids on the Block, Marky Mark, Tiffany. And I'm going to actually just include this intro on Patreon right now so that you guys we can do a double whammy on it. So anyways, all I remember is I was hired on tour for a boy band to be the staff trip tour photographer. And one night when I got up in the middle of the night, stepping in urine because all the boys missed the toilet in the middle of the night on the tour bus with my piss-infested socks, I remember this voice from the front of the tour bus saying, "Girl, come here. I want to talk to you." That's how he talked. That's how Dick talked. But he'd usually say son because he got confused because he was always dealing with boy bands. "Son, do you sing?" That's what he said. "Do you?" And I thought, oh man, I'm supposed to be the photographer. I'm not supposed to say anything. But I said, "Yes, Dick, I do sing." And he's like, "Sing for me." Here's me, curlers in my hair, piss all over, in the middle of the night, no makeup, just bleh. "Sing for me." And this was to be my greatest audition ever, to sing for this manager that would change my life. So I stood in front of him on a shaky tour bus while everybody was asleep and sang my best song as quietly as I could without waking or disturbing people. And he had a sparkle in his eye because in Dick's mind, he saw this boy band that he was managing with this girl, and he was going to do the Tiffany New Kids on the Block. You know, he was going to do that again. And that was my audition. That was my opportunity. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to presentable, but I took the shot. I took my shot. So today, I haven't washed my hair because I've been working 19 hours every day. Today, I reached out to Jimmy John from Jimmy John Sandwiches, which I was supposed to do an interview the day after Thanksgiving, but I'm going to be traveling that day. And I just said, hey, if there's any time between now and Thanksgiving, he said, how about right now? Well, I know that if somebody like that, of that stature, says, how about right now, you take your shot. So I did my best to throw a little hairspray in, put some makeup on. It was makeup or hair. I picked makeup, and I jumped on this podcast. But that's really what it's about. It's about opportunity. It's about how hard you work, how fast you work, and how hard and how much you outwork the competition. And that is what this entire podcast is about. And I cannot wait. I'm a little emotional. I cannot wait to bring you the first guest without having Vince Russo to promote or plug. And this is just me. So I'm going to do my best to bring you the most interesting guests that hopefully, well, not hopefully, I expect to make a huge impact on your life. Thank you so much for listening and being with me all this time. Without further ado, I'm going to bring you my guest, Jimmy John of Jimmy John Sandwiches. Yay! Well, holy shit, I got ya.
There we go.
I didn't get a chance to research as much as I would have loved to, but this is a good segue as to opportunity. When opportunity knocks, I was not expecting to do this interview with you today, but this is such a blessing and such a gift. So I did get a chance to, of course, we all know that when you finished high school, your dad gave you that ultimatum. I want to go back to that day when you started your hot dog stand and just talk about opportunity and where it's led you to this point. Because when we talked on the phone or text, you said that you have so many different ventures that are happening. And I would just love to go back to when you were a kid and figure out what makes you tick and why you've done the great things that you've done. So thank you for being on the show today, Jimmy. Wow.
Sure. No, I'm happy to be here. So
you're so cute.
I'm so cute. Yeah, exactly. So and you should see me dance. So back to the day that it was March of 82 when my father said, you really got to figure out what you're going to do. And I was always a little bit of an ambitious kid. I was a street hustler.
Were you?
Yeah, I was. But I did horrible in school. I couldn't read. I was dyslexic, and I was smart, but since I couldn't read, that back then the teachers always said, well, he just doesn't apply himself. Well, what that says is that, you're really smart, but you suck and you're not applying yourself. Well, no, I can't understand what the fuck I'm reading, And
Oh God.
and so eventually what happens with kids that are dyslexic is you start to really question yourself, right? You start to not have confidence, where somebody that can read would just pick up on it and go. But that's here nor there. But it's way more common than not that people are dyslexic or can't comprehend what they read.
Yep.
So anyway, graduating second to last of my class, my dad said, look, he really ultimately wanted me to go to the Army. And my big brother drove an armored personnel carrier. My little brother was a four-doored Ranger, and my father was an Army guy, and he fought the Korean War. And just intrinsically, Leoto boys are late bloomers, like late bloomers. And I don't know where it comes from, but it comes from my dad's side. My grandpa was mulatto, was half black, and my dad was a quarter. And I'm an eighth black. Now, whether it's here nor there, we just my grandpa used to kid us like, black don't crack, because my grandpa, that we aged like really, really well, but we're emotionally and physically like I didn't physically mature until I was 18 or 19 years old, and I think our emotional maturity, for some reason, everything the Leoto boys do is really, really late. And I'm just, so where that comes into play, I don't know, but we're just very immature. So I don't feel like I'm 59. I still think fart jokes are funny, and I'm 59 years old, right? So anyway, but my dad said, look, you can't live at home. I want you to go to the Army. I didn't want to go to the Army. My brothers were fighters. My dad was a fighter. I'm not a fighter. When I got in a fight, I got beat up. I was never a fighter, and some people are and some people aren't, and I'm not. And so I didn't want to go to the Army. So he said, you always want to have a hot dog cart and have a little hot dog stand. What if I lent you $25,000 to do it? And so what happened was, it was pretty nice. So I graduated high school, and in 2 weeks I visited 20 or 30 hot dog stands, and I had a list of equipment. I figured out where to buy the equipment used, which was in the West Loop in Chicago, where all the used restaurant equipment houses were. And the best deal I got on equipment was $42,000, all used, or hoods and fryers and steam tables. And
question.
Yeah,
question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So usually when a parent, not just father, usually when a parent, like when my dad gave me an ultimatum, there really wasn't an ultimatum. It was basically like, do what I want you to do, or do this, or I'm not going to talk to you again. Your dad seemed like, was he an entrepreneur? Had he started a business himself that he would even give you that option, and that not only like suggest it, other than I'm cutting you off from the family forever, but not only suggest it, but monetarily help you a little bit? Like what's his backstory that he thinks that way?
Yeah, great question. So my grandfather was born in New Orleans in 1903, and they were colored. Okay, that's what they were called. They were called colored, right? And so in 1910, my great grandfather brought my grandpa and his four brothers to Chicago from New Orleans, and to break the color line, and he changed their birth certificates, and they combed their hair straight, and they were fair skinned. Like if you look at my skin, like I'm just a little shade darker. They were like light skinned, but they were colored. So and what they did is they came to Chicago, and when they were all kids, they all worked. All the kids worked, and all the money went into a pool, and that pool funded all five of those boys, all five brothers, to fund their own businesses. One had a little plastic molding company. One of the uncles made industrial safety glasses. One of the uncles became a pharmacist and had a pharmacy. One of the uncles had bars, and then he was in the illegal betting and illegal hooker business, so he was the outlaw. And then one of them was in jail or something like that. So out of the five brothers, they were all entrepreneurs. Three totally legit. one half legit, and one quite didn't make it. And so that was the upbringing of my grandpa. And so my grandpa is the guy that made the safety glasses. And so
Wait, who made the safety glasses? Your grandpa or your dad?
my grandpa, that was his business. He ended up making industrial safety glasses, like in a factory, and you worked on the line, you had to wear safety glasses. You remember, that was a thing. So anyway, so they were entrepreneurs, and they all worked, and they all put the money into a family pot, and the family pot funded all of those businesses. And then they kept the family secret about being black. They kept that like super, like, no way, we're not. Like, that was like the super golden secret, which we never found out until the mid 80s what our family history was, because one of my aunts went down to New Orleans to go figure out, and actually found our original homestead where we had 3 generations of Leotos from the 1800s were raised in the French Quarter. And actually, that's a whole nother story, but we ended up buying the house and donating it to the local church. And we made a little park out of it. It was right in the middle of the French Quarter in the ghetto. And anyway, another funny story is it ended up being prime real estate. So the church hustled it and sold it and made money on the deal. So we gave it to the church and funded it for the park for dreamers. And then the church hustled it. So it's a funny story. So but were they entrepreneurs? Yes, they were. My father graduated from U of I. He sold encyclopedias door to door, grow your encyclopedias. And then in 1967, my dad raised money with friends and family. And my dad started a plastic molding company. And then we were bankrupt in 72. And we were bankrupt again in 76. And I remember those bankruptcies vividly. So 72 and 76, my dad was bankrupt. And then I moved out of the house in 82. And when I mean bankrupt, I mean powdered milk bankrupt. I don't mean, I mean, it was like, I remember when we ran out of milk and we had to have, so, I had quite an experience as a kid, and I saw a lot. And I had a lot of responsibility as a young kid as well. So not only did I experience it and see it, I saw the ups and the downs of it, but I lived it all. So to answer your question, that's a little bit of our family history. Yeah. So it's really pretty amazing. But anyway, long story short, I couldn't afford the equipment for the hot dog stand. I literally, at Carbondale, I went to party with a buddy for a weekend in June of 82. And there was a sandwich shop at Carbondale called Booby Sandwiches, had a refrigerator and a meat slicer. And in the refrigerator, there was beer, pop, lunch meat, sauces, and different stuff. They had a meat slicer and they had bags of bread. And there was 3 pieces of equipment. And really that inspired me to say sandwiches. I turned around, went back home. Sandwiches. I found a mom and pop shop in Milwaukee that baked their own bread. I had to learn how to bake bread. And then I baked bread. And in July of 82, I was a bread baker. August of 82, I came up with 6 sandwiches I liked pretty good. Invited my family over. They voted on 4. And I went to Eastern Illinois University to open my first store, because I had 2 cousins there that I was close to. And my brother Greg was coming out of the Army that November, and he was going to start Eastern Illinois in January. So that's how I started this store. And the deal with my dad was $25,000 loan. If it succeeds, he owns 48%.
Oh, shit.
Yep. If it fails, I don't have to pay him back, but I go to the Army for 2 years.
Wow. Your dad was like, is your dad still around, honey?
No, he's dead. He passed away in 2015 of pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry. God,
Yeah.
what a man. You said when you were, so this is really interesting. And I want to apply this to people listening, young or old, especially young ones. They got to listen to your story and get a freaking clue. You said, I got offered a $25,000 loan, but you said something about you were looking for used equipment, or, you said I couldn't afford even with that, you couldn't afford necessarily what you needed, but you went looking for things. This is really important for people to understand that everything isn't just rolled out on a freaking red carpet for you when you have an opportunity. Like, you have to hustle even the opportunity and not just sit back with your feet up on the coffee table and just wait for things to happen. Like, you sought out like used equipment or deals, or just tell me a little bit about that, because that resonates. That's going to resonate with so many people listening and watching, that you can do things for nothing, or if you have the opportunity of a loan or something like that, don't blow that loan by just wasting it. Like, go out and utilize milk it for all it's worth, is what I was saying. So tell me a little bit about the gear that you first purchased or leased, or what did that look like?
Well, initially, after visiting 10 or 20 hot dog stands, I knew what to have on my menu and had a
Okay.
list, and I had a list of equipment. So
Okay.
the list of equipment, when I went to then I went to Yellow Pages, and the Yellow Pages, that's what Google was when I was a kid. You went to the library and looked up the Chicago Yellow Pages. In the West Loop in Chicago, which is the hot area in the West Loop now, was storefront after storefront of used restaurant equipment houses, and there were new restaurant equipment houses
Okay.
as
Used.
well. The used stuff was cheaper. So the best price I got on the used stuff for the hot dog stand was $42,000, and that was double what my dad's budget was. And so it wasn't an option. When I stumbled on the sandwich shop, it was three pieces of equipment. It was a refrigerator, a meat slicer, and a cash register. I mean, I just went from 25 pieces of equipment to three. And I'm like, well, I can buy a used slicer for $500 and a used refrigerator for $500 and a new cash register for $150. That leaves me $23,000 to fit out my restaurant. This sandwich shop could be an option. So what it did is I didn't have any options. I stumbled on it, and then I stumbled on the bread, and I figured out how to bake the bread. And I opened up the first store in a garage, a 2-car garage of a house. The house had been converted into a donut shop. The 2-car garage was converted into a pizza joint that failed, and there was a bar behind us and to the left of us and in front of us. And so I rented that little garage, and I took my, I opened up with a refrigerator, a meat slicer, an oven, a Sears chest freezer to hold my bread dough in. My mother gave me her oven mitt. She gave me a Rubbermaid cake spatula to spread the mayo. She gave me a serrated bread knife. She gave me some Tupperware to put. And yeah, I mean, it was just a little tiny little sandwich shop, and so that's how I started. And literally, and one thing my father told me, Goldy, and this is important. My father said, Jimmy, put the money in the bank every day, and you pay for everything COD. I said, what's that? He said, here's a checkbook. And when you open the checkbook, there's checks, and below it there's a ledger, and you write a check when everything gets delivered, you pay for it. And he said, COD, that's cash on delivery or check on delivery. He says that way you live in reality. So funny story about that was when I first opened, I had 2 buddies with me. There were 7 day shifts and 7 night shifts, so that's 14 shifts. Well, I had 3 buddies. So they each took, one guy had 2 days, one guy had 2 nights. I took 2 days and 2 nights, and I smoked pot and drank beer Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The first guy opened in January. The first guy quit in February, and the second guy quit in March, left me alone in the sub shop. So I'm alone in the sub shop. I got nobody there. I'm working from 7:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the morning. Freaking out, but I didn't really have anywhere else to go. I was a fat kid my whole life. I failed at everything I did. It was the first thing I ever had that was mine. And for some reason or another, something just started clicking, Goldie. And all of a sudden I started running these shifts from 7:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the morning. And after about a week, it wasn't so bad. After 2 weeks, I got it. After 3 weeks, it was pretty good. And after 4 weeks, I knew my customers. I knew who they were. If they were chubby like me, they got extra mayo. If they were thin like you, I took a little off. I saved all the ends of all the meats and all the ugly stuff. I saved that for the end of the day. And then I would sell that stuff after midnight because the people were drunk.
What's up, everyone? It's Goldy, Impact Wrestling, TLC's Cheapskates. Ted Nugent's running wild from him somewhere in the woods. And maybe you've seen our band, Goldy Locks Band. We're out there, we're on tour, but now we're connecting on Cameo. So I want to tell you that I'm here to be your humble servant, and that's whatever you need said for you, for a friend, a shout out, a golden shout out, you name it, here and on it. Now, just reminding you, keep it classy, keep it cool, and keep it above the belt. But I want to offer you something a little bit different. Just remember, if I'm not on the road and I've got access to these next beauties, we can always have Da-da-da-dum. I want to make this the most amazing experience for you ever, because you deserve it, your friends deserve it, your loved ones deserve it. And just remember, I can sing you a few lines of a song. It can be from anywhere, like it can be from Somewhere Over the Rainbow, or it could be near, far, wherever you are. It could even be on a highway to hell. It can even be from there. Oh, and keep in mind, not all requests are the same. Maybe your motivation comes with a harder edge. Maybe you need a more jagged little pill. There's nothing that I love more than playing the heel. So if you need your message delivered with more, what's the word I'm looking for? Intention? Please specify. Can't wait to connect with you on Cameo. Thanks so much for being here. Stay golden.